Hey everybody, welcome back. Another episode here of Why Do You Call Bolivar Home? And today I am in the house of Dr. Don Jump here in Bolivar, and really I think you're known to a lot of people throughout the community. You've been here a long time, but maybe tell us something a little bit about yourself. If you were introducing yourself, what would you say?
Okay, well, I grew up at Halfway, uh, lived a very sheltered life. I didn't know it at the time, but I went to a little country church and went to school halfway, and my life was centered around school and church. And then I went to Southwest Baptist College, and then I went on to SMS for 1 year, and then I went to Kansas City and went to dental school. That was the biggest cultural shock of my life.
From halfway to Kansas City?
Yeah, halfway to Kansas City. Uh,
Why did you choose dentistry? Because I think a lot of people probably know you from being their dentist, right? You have been up close and personal with a lot of people in their space. What made you choose dentistry?
well, my dad was a school teacher and a farmer, and he wanted me to be a school teacher.
Oh,
And so I majored in math at Southwest Baptist, and then I had braces on my teeth, and the orthodontist said, "Have you ever thought about being a dentist?" And I said, "Well, not really." And he said, "Why don't you look into it?" So I did, and I applied to dental school. I was accepted, and there I was.
that was it. Somebody just said, "Have you ever thought about doing
Well,
this?"
I actually gave it quite a bit of thought.
Yeah.
My dad wanted me to be a teacher, and so he encouraged me greatly
Yeah.
to follow his footsteps. I got up to Kansas City, and I first round of test, I began to wonder maybe if my dad was right. But
Should have
anyway,
been a teacher.
I'll never forget microbiology. I had not had any in college. First test, I made a D, and I had a 4.85 average going into dental school, and I wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
And so, but my roommate was a microbiology major in college.
Perfect.
So he said, "I'll tutor you." So I really worked hard. Came time for the final exam, and I had a low C minus average.
Yeah.
Nubley was my roommate, and he had a strong B plus. The teacher said, "You can take the grade you got now and walk out, or we'll erase all of that, and whatever grade you make on the final will be your grade." Well, my friend walked out with his B plus.
Yeah.
I took the test and I made an A. Nubley said, "Jump, never ask me to tutor you again."
He taught you too much, or taught you well, I guess. Huh?
Yeah. But anyway, I went on through dental school, and
What school in Kansas City is that?
University of Missouri,
Oh, UMKC.
UMKC.
Okay.
Yeah, School of Dentistry. Yeah.
Okay. And then you came back home, or where did you?
Well, actually, when I got out of dental school was 1969. The Vietnam War was on.
Yeah.
Everybody was being drafted. They were short of dentists, and many of them were going to Vietnam. So I went down to the Navy recruiter
Okay.
and said, "What are my chances of going to Vietnam if I join the Navy?" He said, "Well, there aren't very many Navy dentists in Vietnam, maybe 1 in 50. Well, that was good odds, so I signed up. Went to Great Lakes, for officers training for 2 weeks, and then to Memphis Naval Air Station at Millington, Tennessee. And I'd been down there for about 4 months, and I got this piece of paper, and it says, "You've been assigned to FMF." I had no idea what that stood for. So I took it to my commanding officer, and he said, that stands for the Fleet Marine Force.
Oh.
The Marines do not have any dentists, and the Navy provides dentists for the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
So you've been assigned. Said you'll be Navy, but you'll be working on Marines, and furthermore, that means you're going to Vietnam. I said, well, the Navy recruiter said my chances were 1 in 50.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. Yeah. He said, you're 1 in 50.
You're the one.
You're the one.
Congratulations. Yeah.
So anyway.
What were you thinking at that time? How were you feeling at that time?
Well, boy, it didn't get better.
Yeah.
I went to Camp Pendleton, California for field medical training school. And then I met 3 other dentists that were also going to Vietnam. Bill O'Shaughnessy, Irishman from New York. Harry DiGirolamo, Italian.
Wow. East
Orange, New Jersey.
Yeah. These are not names you would have known from halfway.
Pardon me?
These are not names you would have known from halfway.
No. And John Schroeder from, he was German from Iowa, and then Jump from the Ozarks. We 4 became very good friends.
Yeah, I bet.
And we still are. We stay in contact with each other. But anyway, when they found out I was from the Ozarks, they said, Jump, did you have shoes when you was growing up?
That was their stereotype, huh?
Yeah.
That's what they thought of.
Yeah.
So how long did you serve? I know that you wear that veteran hat proudly. Yeah. How long did you serve?
Well, I was in Vietnam for 11 months. And then 2 years active duty, and then I stayed in the reserves for about 6 more years, and then I finally resigned my commission. I was up for commander, and I decided that I had 2 little boys, and my wife and it was time for me to.
Yeah.
But anyway, a lot of stories happened.
Did you have other family that were in the military also, or were you the first one that went?
Yes, I lost a cousin over there. He was flew missions over Cambodia.
Wow.
His name was Russell Vorse. His mother's pictures in that there.
Yeah.
And anyway.
You were showing me.
Yes.
And just for
right here is his mother.
Yes.
Right there, Eva Vorse.
Vorse.
Yeah, Vorse. Yeah.
And you were showing me these are the 2 different sides of your family: the Payne family and the Roberts family.
Right.
Right. And these, I don't know how well it shows up here, but I said, "Is this a class reunion?" Because it looks like, how many people are in these pictures?
There's about 350 in this, and probably, I would say in the neighborhood of 200 in that. I never counted.
350 on one side, 200. And so you get together with the family is really important to you.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Obviously, and well connected. And
this was on my mother's family. It doesn't count the jumps. I've got more pictures of the jumps.
That's right. Yeah.
And the jumps, my claim to fame is Daniel Boone is one of my ancestors.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
How far down the line there? What?
Well, I've got the family tree, how it goes. But my grandpa, Jump, full name was Robert Thomas Terry Boone Jump. Everybody called him Bob.
I don't blame him. I already forgot what you said. Yeah.
Grandpa Jump, grandmother was Nathan Boone's daughter.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. My grandfather, the generations weren't like 20 years, 20, so, my grandpa Jump was born in 1871, just after the Civil War,
Wow.
actually. And then my dad was born in 1909, and I was born in 44.
Born in 44.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And of course, you and Carolyn, you mentioned you have two boys.
Yes.
Jeff was just in here right before we filmed. Jeff and I graduated together.
Yeah.
And he's full transparency out trying to kill a turkey right now. If you know Jeff, that makes good sense. Did you hunt also? Did you get that from you?
I used to. I don't anymore, but it's kind of exciting to that old gobbler. He'll be coming up, and and then you use the turkey call.
Yeah.
But
one of the other things that I also find interesting, of course, not just Jeff, but Tim. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with Carrie Douglas.
Yes.
And Carrie Douglas had taken over the law firm from from his father, and then now Pat has taken over the law firm from Carrie, and it reminds me kind of your story.
Yes.
Tim is now taking over the dentistry.
Yes.
The dental. What does that feel like to have your son want to do that?
A very, very good feeling. I was very pleased when Tim went to dental school, and so that was good.
Yeah. What were some of the things maybe you missed doing with the boys as they were younger, or maybe as a family, or what did you all do for fun, or things you miss?
We've had, we took some trips together. Probably the trip to Yellowstone Park was one of the biggest trips. We went through South Dakota and, and on over west of Wyoming.
Did you do the Badlands?
Yes, we did the Badlands.
I've always wanted to do that. I've never done that, but I hear it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, but not a place you'd want to live.
Yeah. So you also, just so we have it here too, one of the things you brought up was my folks there in the church directory. We've gone to church for several years together.
Yeah.
Of course, church and faith plays a big part in your life.
Yeah.
I know too. Maybe talk about that, your faith and your relationship with Christ and things like that. What's that mean to you and your family?
The most, I'm most grateful for my salvation in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It really doesn't make any difference how much you accumulate here on earth. When it comes down to that final day, why that's not an important thing.
Yeah.
It's and as far as relationship, my granddaughter was baptized just a week ago Sunday, actually. Yeah.
Great.
And one of the things that's been very rewarding to me is I'm a Gideon.
Okay.
And one day, about 10 years ago, I walked into the treatment room at the office to check this boy's teeth, and he was reading a Gideon Bible that he'd found in our waiting room. And he said, "May I have this Bible?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "We don't have a Bible at home." And I made the assumption everybody had a Bible, but that's not the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, I joined the Gideons, and shortly after then, probably 10 years ago. And just this last weekend, we were down at the Rendezvous below the dam there at Hermitage. And there were 3 of us Gideons, and we were handing out scriptures and testaments. We handed out 779.
Wow.
And Saturday and Sunday, just this past Saturday and Sunday.
Wow.
But anyway, and then...
were you a deacon?
Yes, I was a deacon. I still am a deacon. I've been a deacon since back in 75, 76, somewhere along in there. Then I was a trustee at the university for 10 years.
Okay.
So
when did you retire from your practice?
About fully retired about 2 years ago.
Okay.
But I started in 71. I graduated in dental school in 69, 2 years in the Navy, and then I came back. And actually, I worked at Buffalo for about 4 months, and then I came on over to Bolivar.
Okay.
And so about 2 years ago, I fully retired. But when Tim came into practice, I slowed down some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in good
But
hands,
it was a very, I was very privileged to be part of the dental profession. It wasn't perfect, of course.
Yeah.
But they taught us in dental school how to be a dentist, but they didn't teach us how to run a practice, how to run a business.
Right.
So
was that a learning curve there?
Yes. When I first started out, I thought, wow, I sure don't want to offend anybody. And so,
yeah.
Of course, I saw a lot of relatives, but then people would say, could I come in and pay for this Friday? And I'd say, sure, don't worry about it. And there were some that didn't worry about it. They didn't come back Friday
right.
or ever. So I finally had to kind of change my policy on that. And anyway.
So when you came back, when did you move to Bolivar? Like here in your house, I've known you to live here east of town on 32 for years and years.
Yeah.
When did you build this house or?
Yeah, we did. 1985, I guess it was, or not. Well, anyway, yes, we did build this house, and where we lived, where North Ward Museum is, right there on Main Street. The house is painted gray now.
Okay.
It was called the Old Townsend House.
Okay.
And Townsend's was that's an old house. It was built back in the 1800s.
Well.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's an old house. That's where we lived. We bought that house and lived there until we built this house.
Okay.
Yeah. And
you wanted to be out of town and have some land.
Yes. And of course, we still have cattle.
Yeah.
And that's, I grew up as a crow flies about 4 miles that way. You go down here to Kurt Small Engine Road and turn and go back north, go across the river down there, the old Roberts Ford.
Yeah.
And up the hill, and the first road to the left, second house is where I was actually born. I was born there in that house. The old bed where I was born, it's right there where I was born. I can go 80 years ago.
Wow. It's still there?
Yeah, still there. Wow. Yeah. But nobody lives in the house now. We've put a metal roof on it and tried to keep it up some, but it's,
that's something.
Yeah, and so that's where we have altogether we have, I think, about 110 mama cows, and Jeff does that part.
Yeah.
But
keeps him busy. That's a lot of cows, it seems like.
Well, we actually had 170 for a while, but we got a farm at Pittsburgh, Missouri, right north of Pittsburgh, and my granddad owned that, and my wife and I went down there. My uncle lived on the place, and we went down there, and we found out that my granddad was going to sell that old place. And so it was, at that time, it was about 326 acres. Then they built the dam at Hermitage, and they took 20 acres easement and gave me $15 an acre for that.
Oh, wow.
Can you believe that?
It's not a good deal.
It wasn't a good deal. You didn't have a choice.
No. That was a take it or leave it.
But anyway, we did have see, a year ago last July, we had about 70 cows down there, overstocked. But anyway, we had a drought right there. And so Jeff was feeding 2 bales a day. And we had 17 bales left. The math is easy.
Yeah.
So, make a long story short, they came and loaded up 69 cows and their calves, left 1 cow that had a baby calf the night before, and we didn't want to put that baby calf on these big old trucks. Yeah. So we're restocking that place now, and but Jeff pretty much looks after all of that.
Yeah, but, it's good to have Jeff there to be able to do
oh
that.
My land, there'd be no way that I could.
Yeah.
I don't get in the pen with cattle anymore. And,
no.
I mean, that's.
Did you grow up with cattle? Like, where did you learn the farming thing?
I grew up on 90 acres, and we milked a cow like this, and then a buck hay. You know what that is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And my cousin Don Roberts in Garland had the sale barn down here, and I was about a junior in high school, and they offered me a job, and so I worked on Saturdays there at the sale barn, and then I worked I worked there 2 years, and then Johnny Westfall, Morris Westfall's dad and mom, had the Bolivar Candy and Tobacco Company. And,
where was that?
Well, as you go into town, at the corner of Elgin and 32, there's a flea market there now. They set things out.
Yeah.
That was where the Bolivar Candy and Tobacco Company was.
I know right where you're talking about.
Yeah. We delivered Johnny.
I want to make sure that you're not messing with that microphone there. You know what I mean? Just
is it still there?
It's still there. I'm just making sure you weren't bumping it or things like that. Sorry about that.
I forgot all about that.
If it's awkward, we can move it. Was that a place, the Candy and Tobacco Company? Was that a place you could walk into? Was it a store, or did they just produce?
It was sold wholesale.
Okay.
And we that's where I worked when I went to school out here. And Johnny Westfall would go in the daytime. I mean, he'd go and get orders.
Yeah.
And then after I'd get out of school, I'd come in and fill orders. Jim Bacon was one of the others. And Bob Watkins and some of the people.
You mentioned Don Roberts. And of course, we had Don Roberts on an episode of this also. And your families were, of course, connected. And I don't know how many people. I've learned a lot about this. I got to interview Rose Roten and Carrie Douglas, and I had no idea they were brother and sister. And I've known them both my whole life. And so it's interesting, the connections and the family ties, of course, with Don Roberts. And people know the Bill Roberts name as well.
Well, Don's dad, Claude, lived up on the hill above the sale barn there. And Claude and my mother, Ada, were brothers and sisters, and they were 11 in that family.
Okay.
And my grandpa was Amos Roberts.
Okay.
And Amos was really a half brother to old Bill Sr. His
old
mother.
Bill Sr.
Yeah. Well, Bill Sr. They grew up. Grandpa grew up at Adonis, but anyway, his mother had a health problem, and they took her down to Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And they used to think,
there was healing powers.
Healing powers, yeah. And unfortunately, she died down there.
Okay.
And that's where she's buried at. So my granddad was 6 months old. And
wow.
So my great granddad remarried and had 7 more children.
Yeah.
And Luther Roberts, Bill Roberts, Rena, Ralph Tillery's mother was anyway, there were 7 more kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't blame you for that's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, but anyway, and of course, there many of them are in this picture here.
Yeah,
here, this Robert's family here. That's there's Agnes right there, and that's Aunt Athie, and that's my mom, Aunt Annie. These all these ladies lived to be. Aunt Annie was 2 weeks shy of 100. Mom was 95. Aunt Athie was 96. And I'm not sure how old Agnes was when she died, but anyway.
Big family.
Yeah, big family. Yeah, I think that's Ralph Tillery there, and Alan Roberts. I don't know if you know Alan. He sells real estate.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
R&R.
Okay.
There, he's got a place out south of town there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So, you've been here for a while. So
all my life.
All your life, right?
Except when I went away to dental school into the Navy.
And I think that's interesting because you went away, you experienced different places. You would have had a choice or a chance to move elsewhere, but you didn't. So why do you choose to call Bolivar home?
After you're in Vietnam for 11 months and Camp Pendleton, California, Bolivar and halfway looked really, really good.
I bet.
When I graduated from dental school, I had an offer to go to a place called Fredonia, Kansas. And old dentist there was retiring, and he said, "You come and take over this practice, and it's yours."
Yeah.
And but anyway, I knew I was going to probably be drafted, so that's how I went in the Navy.
Yeah.
And by the time I got out of the Navy, I was ready to come home.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an only child.
That's interesting.
And that made Mom and Dad very happy. It made me happy too. Carolyn grew up in Blue Springs. She went to college out here, and
at SBU or Southwest Baptist College?
Southwest Baptist. SWBC it was.
SWBC,
yeah.
I've heard so many people having these conversations that SBU or the college is what brought them here.
Yeah.
And then they just decided to stay here.
Well, yeah, but Carolyn, she, and that's another story. Jasper Clark was a biology teacher.
Okay.
And like I had said before, I was a math major, but I needed to take biology so I could get into zoology or botany. Yeah. At that time, I was still a math major. Anyway, the biology lab, there was 40 and 10, a little auxiliary lab. And my enrollment number was way high, so class had filled up.
Yeah.
And I went to Dr. Clark and I said, I really need biology. He said, we can handle one more person in that auxiliary lab. So I got in that lab. Well, they had lab assistants. And this lab assistant's name was Carolyn Ferguson. And so that's where I first met Carolyn. But at that, we did not date at SBU.
Okay.
She went on back home, Blue Springs. I went to dental school. And there was a church up there called Broadway Baptist. And she was visiting that church because it had a good youth program.
Okay.
And I decided that I'd go over there and visit. That when church was over, I walked out, looked around, and I know that girl. And so we visited for just a little bit and went our separate ways. And about a week later, I thought, I think I'll call her up. Well, the Kansas City telephone book had a full page of Ferguson's.
I bet.
I had no idea what her dad's name was. So I called up the church secretary and said, "Did Carolyn Ferguson turn in a visitor's card?" "Yeah." "Could you give me that number?" "Oh, no, we can't give you that number."
Well,
You know,
yeah.
so I just finally talked her into giving me that number. Think of all the Dr. Clark let me in that class.
Oh,
We visited the same church. Only one. I don't think I ever went back there.
yeah. The stars were aligned
Yeah,
for that.
yeah.
For that reason.
So we actually corresponded after I went to the Navy, and then. But anyway, I dated her. We dated when I was the last year at dental school.
Okay.
And then, so we corresponded back and forth. And I even I had a long weekend, so flew to Kansas City and had met her mom and dad and her three sisters and her brother, little David. And so anyway, we decided that we'd get married in the following June. Then I got those orders to Vietnam, and we moved it up to November the 28th, 1969. And we got married in the Blue Springs Baptist Church.
But November the 28th.
November 28th.
That's the same. That's Bill and Sandy Jones got married on November 28th.
Who's that?
Bill and Sandy Jones.
Is that right?
That's the same anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got married on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the day on Friday after Thanksgiving. Yeah, I wonder if we might have got married the same year. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember the year.
Probably,
but I remember
probably did. I don't know.
28th.
But anyway.
So did Carolyn go with you at all? Deploy with you, or did she stay home the whole time?
Well, when I went to Camp Pendleton, California in January of 1970, and she went out there with me and stayed in a motel there, motel. And anyway, I had to go out in field medical training school. We lived in tents, and
wow.
And then on the weekend, it was a 2-week deal.
Yeah.
We came back in. Well, these 3 guys I mentioned to you, they went through the same thing, and one of them was married, and the other 2 were still single. And so they met Carolyn there. And so when we got out, then of course came back to Camp Pendleton, and we lived in Oceanside. But like I said, I was ready to come back.
Ready to come back.
Yeah, ready to come back.
Yeah.
Another funny story is we got over to Vietnam, and they assigned me to, well, this is not funny. They assigned me to graves, and dentists identified positive identification on bodies by their dental records.
Right.
And so we'd been there 2 weeks. I bought a camera and bought a fan, and the commanding officer called the 4 of us in. Said the dentist was shot at LZ Baldy last night.
Wow.
And said, one of you need to go out there, the 4 of us. Nobody volunteered. So he finally said, jump, pack your bags. The Jeep will pick you up in the morning. That's when I really thought, how in the world did a little skinny boy from halfway end up halfway around the world? Yeah. And I might get shot over here.
Yeah.
And LZ Baldy, landing zone Baldy. Well, he said, a Jeep will pick you up in the morning, take you out there. Well, these other 3 guys were delighted.
Yeah, I bet.
It's laying there. We slept in a little area, about 10 by 10, 2 bunk beds. And Schroeder said, Jim, if something happens to you out there, could I have your fan? They just all laughed. I didn't laugh at all.
No, I bet you didn't. You weren't ready for jokes.
I wasn't, but they were delighted.
Yeah.
And finally, Rolmo said, Jump, I like your camera. They all laughed again. Finally, O'Shaughnessy said, Jump, all I want is your wife.
I was waiting for that.
Anyway, we've told that story a lot. You know what? All three of those guys have been here to see me.
That's great.
Yeah. O'Shaughnessy came. He ended up being a Rotarian in Bayshore, New York. It's on Long Island. And he was here for the 4th of July celebration of freedom. He stayed with us a couple nights. And then, anyway.
That's good.
Yeah. Like I said, we stay in contact. We don't, not quite so much as we used to.
Yeah.
But,
well, you know, you are, and you have a unique story in that not only have you chosen Bolivar as your home to raise your family,
yeah,
but you also had a successful business, you know, for decades upon decades. And you know, what was it about Bolivar that you enjoyed as far as from the business aspect and the community and things like that?
Well, Bolivar has been good for me. You know, I mean, in Rotary, that's a story. I've been in Rotary since '71, and 71. I got a piece of tooth in my eye, and I went up to see Dr. McCraw.
He had a piece of tooth in your eye?
I was grinding on it, you know, and
I wouldn't have thought of that I guess that's a.
And I didn't have my safety glasses on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, man, a little piece of tooth sharp.
Yeah.
And I went up to see Dr. McCraw. I was laying back, and he was getting a little piece of tooth out. It didn't have ophthalmologists then in Bolivar. And he said, I'd like to invite you to the Rotary Christmas party, December the 12th. That was 1971.
Okay.
And so I went to that Christmas party, and I've been in Rotary ever since. And I don't have perfect attendance, but I did get a perfect attendance little pin several different years, but anyway.
I think you've been there every time that I've been there.
I've been there. Well, we used to, until COVID hit, we had attendance requirements.
Okay.
And if you miss more than 3 meetings in a row, you're out. And there's some guys that well, I shouldn't use the word kick. They weren't kicked out. They just voluntarily. But anyway, now, you know, we had 48 members, I think, there for quite a 45, 46, you know, and now we may still have many members, but certainly we don't have that attendance.
Yeah.
You know.
I've noticed that. So what other I guess, as far as the community or the city of Bolivar, or what has made it a great spot for you to live and to do business in?
Well, it's Bolivar has a lot of things going for it. You know, when I came to Bolivar, came back, the population was 3,000 something.
Yeah.
And, you know, it has just really grown. And there's so many things, you know, the people, I guess, would be one thing, obviously. And the university over here, we had close ties with it.
Yeah.
And,
you know, you're right back next to CMH there, so you've seen CMH just grow around your practice.
Yes. Well, CMH is when things really, really took off and grew here. You know, when I came back to Bolivar, there was one physician.
Yeah, that's something. I've heard that.
And he had killed his wife.
Wow.
Not with a gun, but with drugs. Dr. Bernard Finch, he was in the building out there where Stevens Pharmacy is now.
Oh.
He was from El Dorado Springs. And he repented and got his license. And, you know, people here in Bolivar really, really accepted him and went to him. But that was a time when Dr. Ben Kuhn had gone to Kansas City for a residency in family medicine. And then Dr. Kaler had gone down in Louisiana just for a year. And but anyway.
Who was the dentist in town before you?
Well, there was Dr. Hook, Kenneth Hook, and he's in that building over there. He was in that building right there, just off from Springfield and Buffalo Road. It's a house.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Dr. Jack Hacker, and he was above the old Braithwaite store.
Where the feed store is now?
Yeah, or? The feed store. There was a stairway. You went up there, and he was. And
I think Ankrum Law.
Yes, right? That's exactly right.
That used to be a dentist office?
It used to be a dental office, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then Dr. Viles was there where Paul Long's insurance agency is now. Yeah. He had one chair and waiting room, a little waiting room, just a little hole in the wall. He's from halfway. I actually went to school at Pleasant Hope, but halfway.
Okay.
And if you go by his place, it's on the highway that goes from halfway to Pleasant Hope. Got a sign out there, Tooth Acres. Yeah, you know, like toothache. Yeah, Tooth Acres. We're sharing stories and laughing some. But, you know, one year, I'll never forget this. We had a dental study club, the dentist at Buffalo, the dentist at Greenfield, Bolivar, Stockton, and we met, maybe once every 2 months. And there were about 10 or 12 of us.
Yeah.
And we had this guy from Buffalo. He was a psychologist. And we had him speak. And he said, what is the thing that makes everybody, what a happy person, what makes them happy? You know, what's the one characteristic that all happy people share? So write it down on a piece of paper. Someone wrote down, have all the money you can spend.
Yeah.
He said, he took the interest. He said, you know, some of the most unhappy people there are rich.
Yeah.
Have all the money. They're not happy. Well, he went through all the answers, but you know what? The one common thing is a sense of humor.
Yeah. That makes sense.
A sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good example of overthinking the answer there. You know, a sense of humor. It's true.
I meet with a group at McDonald's on Monday mornings, and there's some meet there every day, every morning, but I just go on Monday mornings. My neighbor over here, I ride with him.
Yeah.
And we sit there, and it's just one funny thing. We just tell one funny story after another, you know.
Yeah.
And one story about these two old guys that were baseball. Did I tell you the story about the baseball players?
So you said this during Rotary.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But I want you to say it again so we can record it.
Okay. Yeah, the two old baseball players, they were sitting on a park bench talking about the good old days of playing baseball. Harry and Charlie. Old Harry said, Charlie, You think there'll be baseball in heaven? Charlie said, you know, I don't rightly know. Old Harry passed away about 2 weeks later. Left old Charlie sitting on that park bench all alone. All once he heard a voice. He said, Harry, is that you? Yeah, it's me. I got good news and I got bad news. Well, tell me the good news. Well, there's baseball in heaven. What's the bad news? Well, you're going to be pitching next Friday.
You told that at Rotary and it got a good response. That's a pretty good one.
I forgot that I told that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, what other things do you want to cover here? Anything that you want to talk about that maybe I haven't brought up?
Well, you've right offhand, I can't think of anything that it's just been a good, like I said before, dentistry was a profession that I enjoyed, and it was good, and a lot of good people.
Yeah.
Probably 25% of my patients were Amish or Mennonites.
Oh.
You know, you already know this, being business, but if you make one happy, then there'll be more come.
Yeah.
If you make one unhappy, they're not going to send their friends.
Yeah, you're going to lose more. Yeah.
And I learned that from 2 summers I sold Bible books door to door.
Huh.
One summer in Huntsville, Alabama. One summer in Douglas, Georgia.
Okay.
And I learned a lot about people, you know.
Yeah.
I'd just go up and knock on the door. And, my name is Don Jump. I'm just a pesky salesman. You don't shoot them, do you? If they, some of them would say, I shoot every third one and 2 just left. I knew I had a sale.
Yeah.
I knew I had a sale. But anyway, people are, why I'm telling you the story is, after I sold just a few books, I had the order book in my right hip pocket, and I'd show the books. And then I'd say, some of the people who've been buying these are Raymond Jones. You know, read off some names.
Yeah.
They say, did Raymond Jones buy those books? Well, let me see them again here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it was a matter of them keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah. That's right.
And
more ways than one.
yeah, right. And I learned a lot about people.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people you'd think would be buyers,
yeah,
weren't.
Yeah.
But some of the times when, and I'd pick up, I mean, as I'd leave the house, I'd say, now, who are the folks that live down here at this next house? Well, I'd have their name, you know what I mean? And maybe they wouldn't be home, but I'd have enough names. So after 5 o'clock, that's when I sold the most books.
Yeah.
And I'd sell
yeah,
till late. And I remember this one Saturday night, I went into a house. I knocked on the door. It was too late to knock on the door, 9 o'clock or 9:30. But I could tell everybody was up. Old rundown shack. Their kids were, I bet there were 10 kids. They were laying in pallets around and, oh, you know. And I thought, well, I'm probably wasting my time here. And but anyway, I learned not to judge
Yeah,
by the house, or
that's
you
right.
know. So I made him a presentation, and this man, there were two brothers and their spouses, and like probably 8 or 10 kids. I don't remember. Anyway, this one said, these books, those books would be good for our kids, be good for them too. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, these, and so I said, anyway, this one brother had 27.95. That's what the book said. I've still got a set of them up there. And the other brother said, I just don't have the money in that, but I want a set of those books too. And what we did is we'd take orders,
Yeah.
and then at the last week we'd go back and deliver. And what was so satisfying about that, those people saved up their money and they were anxious to get those books.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a good experience in my life. I look back on that, and I learned so much about people.
Yeah.
And not that I know it all now,
Yeah.
but you never learn it all, of course. But just the experience I had, I would probably average 18 to 20 houses a day.
Yeah.
And anyway, but
That's
that was
just another. You went from selling Bibles to giving away Bibles as Gideons, and just another testament of how
Yeah.
faith has played a big role in your life, and
well, yeah,
and also that faith, but also the experience with people and getting to know people, I'm sure helped you be successful in business as well.
yeah. One of the stories, we were down at Pittsburgh days. We had a table set up with Bibles, and given, when they came up, and this little girl came up. She was about probably 12 or 13, and a little boy tagging along behind her. I assumed it was her little brother.
Yeah.
Probably about 8. She picked up one of the Bibles, handed it to him, and said, "Now this is the Bible. You need to read it." Oh,
good.
There's been so many funny things that's happened.
Oh, yeah.
Down to but
Yeah.
even this last weekend down at the rendezvous, there was just people came in. Like I said, there was 779 Bibles we gave away this weekend.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to buy or sell in the Bolivar area or community here, as Dr. Jump just said, from halfway to Bolivar, this is just a good place to call home. So
Yeah.
if you're looking for buying or selling or looking for opportunities in the area, let me know. I'd be happy to help. Matt Griswold with Neighborhood Real Estate. Till next time.